I know why you're here. You want to hear about Don't Worry, Darling. So let's talk about Don't Worry, Darling. Don't Worry, Darling. You probably know more about the gossip surrounding this movie than you know about the movie, because the trailer for the movie doesn't reveal very much. This movie is directed by Olivia Wilde, who also worked on the script with a co-screenwriter. It stars Harry Styles and Florence Pugh as a husband and wife that live in a perfect, idyllic, sort of late 50s, early 60s town. It's actually shot in Palm Springs. It's idyllic. It's beautiful. They live in this courtyard. All the women wear like flourishing dresses or sort of sexy, just got out of bed wear as they kiss their husbands and send them off to work, each with a briefcase in hand, each jumping into a 50s or 60s vehicle in perfect condition that they then drive to who knows where, a bunker in the middle of the desert where on occasion there are weird explosions that shake the house. Who knows what project they're working on? And they're all led by this enigmatic figure played by Chris Pine. They have dinner parties, they drink and hang out, they play games, the women go shopping, they do a lot of shopping, and there's a lot of drinking alcohol, whatnot. Florence Pugh's character and Harry Styles are in love. I mean, they're madly in love, married couple. They're very frisky in the bedroom, so there are many sex scenes. So make of that what you will. A lot of sex scenes, them just like they're so attracted to each other, they're so in love, but all is not right in this perfect idyllic place. As Florence Pugh begins to have visions, every time she looks in a mirror, there's something strange going on. She has one neighbor, a married couple, where the woman tries to take her own life. She's having problems in the marriage, so everybody says. And there are these strange men in red sort of coveralls that every time something crazy happens, these men in red coveralls kind of just fix it. They come out and they solve a problem. There's a tram that takes, all the housewives when they just sort of spend their day like, what are we doing? Spending our days cleaning, shopping, making breakfast, making meals, everything's like this perfect. It's the perfect version of patriarchy from the 50s, that sort of idyllic stay-at-home housewife, man goes to work, the main breadwinner. She doesn't even know what he does at work, and he's very mysterious about it. But again, Florence Pugh's character, I believe her name is Alice, starts to have all these visions of something else is going on. And I will say this, I was in hook, line, and sinker. I like this kind of film. You feel like, what is this? Is this Stepford Wives? Like there's a big mystery afoot. And the first 2/3 of the film is this little glimpses of all is not right. Some people are acting very strange. She takes, she's on a trolley and sees a plane crash and goes to try to find out what happens at the plane crash. And then, goes to the place she's not supposed to go. You're not supposed to go past this certain barrier. Well, she goes past the barrier and then ends up unconscious and wakes up in her bedroom like nothing happened. All is not right. Now, before I get into it, I want to warn people. There is a major twist in the third act of this film. So for the first, 2/3, 3/4 of the movie, I'm sold. What is going on? This is bizarre. This also, why can't we get back to this? A simpler life, right? Instead of, you can't even survive without two people in a household working and or even each of those people having a side gig, right? This is where we are now, so it's and of course it's like this perfectly painted picture of an idyllic time that we all know was not perfect or idyllic, right? But it's a vision of that. And there is something that happens in the third act that as soon as I saw it, all the goodwill and everything that I loved about the first 3/4 of the movie went out the window. It is one of the dumbest twists I've seen in a movie that kept itself mysterious up until that point. I can't even remember the last time I saw something like this. And what it reveals itself to be is a very anti-male, very against the patriarchy, and also probably what it tells me is Olivia Wilde was going through something during the making of this movie. She was going through something. And my guess is that something is a divorce and an affair with Harry Styles, which my understanding, and I'm not a gossip person. I don't care about gossip. Unless it somehow relates to the movie, like the story of the movie. I mean, I will say this. I don't care that Olivia Wilde had an affair with Harry Styles on the set of this film. And they're no longer together, by the way, which has fueled the drama. I have a piece of video that I'll play for you from the IMAX live experience where I saw Don't Worry Darling on Monday. And I shot some video because I was so annoyed with what was going on. I had to show it to you. So I'm going to show you this 30-second video in a moment here. But she's perfectly fine to have, a director having an affair with an actor on a film set. When has that ever happened? As far as I'm concerned, the playing field is level. She should be able to do that. They're both adults. Fine. Men should be able to do that too. Male directors, fine. Female directors, fine. These things happen. There's actually a name for it. And I learned this when I produced my first feature film in 2005. It's called It's Not Love, It's Location. And what happens is when you're making a movie, everything is really intense. Emotions are really intense. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're having intimate scenes with people. You're barely sleeping, right? You're getting maybe 4-6 hours of sleep a night at best. It's intense. And that intensity, that work environment, whatever, leads to a lot of on-set affairs. Remember the phrase, it's not love, it's location. We might do a t-shirt. But I need to know if you would like me to spoil the movie. So people in the chat, I did spoil it on another live cast, so maybe it's out there. But I want to know before I go any further. I'm going to show you this video in just a sec too. So what is the chat saying?
Yeah, no one's there was, from what I saw, there was one yes and then one no.
All right, we're wide.
Yeah, you just said it, so people are now okay. Here we go. Spoil. Let's see. 100%. Leo Burnett. Spoil it now. Spoil it.
Okay, before I spoil the twist, someone in the chat, please spoil it, darling. Someone in the chat is a member. Thank you for that. Before I spoil it, I want to show you this video. So when I went to they called it the IMAX Live Don't Worry Darling experience. Basically what that meant was they were doing a live cast from New York. I saw the movie at like 4:30 p.m., which is kind of early, but they did a live like kind of Q&A at the beginning. So it was like 20 minutes and it was Olivia Wilde and the entire cast, and they introduced the cast. And so this is a video from that. You could probably even find it somewhere online, the whole thing, but this is a view from inside the theater when they're introducing the cast. And I found it very odd that, of course, Olivia Wilde is the first person. She's seated number one. And at the very, very far end, the last person they introduce is Harry Styles on the complete opposite side. So here's that moment from inside the theater.
Asif Ali. Yeah. Yes. And Harry Styles. Great to see all of you. Olivia, very lucky audience.
Okay, so now the entire movie was screaming girls. So I'm watching this movie and literally Harry Styles would like lift an eyebrow or there'd be like some sort of sex scene, right? And it was constant screaming and and all these girls were definitely high school age. High school, I would say maybe even junior high. And I talked to a friend last night at the theater. She saw Don't Worry, Darling. She said the entire movie was ruined by screaming girls. You might want to carefully pick a screening if you do plan on seeing the movie. But our comments, people are saying ruin it. Is that
ruin it? It's pretty. I mean, not to say that we appreciate the chat, but definitely the active members of the chat want you to ruin it, want you to spoil it.
All right, so here we go with the big spoiler of the film. And I need to set this up. So it's this idyllic life, but things are afoot. Something's wrong. And Alice keeps seeing these visions in mirrors. She thinks she's seeing things. She's getting sort of glimpses of what might be another life. Well, suddenly we see a moment where she has a memory of another life. What is this life? She's in nurse's scrubs. She's working at a hospital. She comes home. She's had a long day of work. And she comes home to her tiny apartment where living there is her husband, also played by Harry Styles, who's playing video games in front of a computer and is a total nerd. He's an incel, or what someone would believe is a cliche version of what an incel might look like. So he's all scruffy looking. He's kind of schlumpy. He's wearing glasses. It's ugly Harry Styles, who's the callous husband who just plays video games all day while the wife goes and works her job at the hospital, and she's exhausted, and he can't do anything right. He's a complete moron. What is then, so you see, like, okay, this is the life she's getting a glimpse into. Come to find out, she is in a virtual simulation of this idyllic life, this perfect life. And she has on these they almost looks like something on a Clockwork Orange, but it's more sophisticated, like thing. It's like a VR thing where her eyes are just open and she's in that world and she's lost in that world. And when he's going off to work, what he's literally doing is getting up, he's leaving the virtual world, working sort of a low-end job just to make enough money to pay for their basic expenses so he can go back in the perfect life. And the perfect life consists of, I mean, it's an idyllic version of the patriarchy, right? The women are servants to their men. They all seem pretty happy to me in that world. But it's sort of a parody version of the patriarchy. And there's a scene where this starts to come out because she's having thoughts and ideas. And I think this scene is actually on YouTube. They actually leaked this scene. And it's where Florence Pugh, they have a big dinner party. Chris Pine's character is there. He's kind of this, Olivia Wilde said he's based on Jordan Peterson, but like, it's clear she doesn't know anything about Jordan Peterson at all, because his answer when asked about, incels is like, hey, you've got to level up. You've got to be an attractive man. You've got to up your game if you're going to attract a high quality female, was basically his response when asked about so-called incels, right? So Florence Pugh sits down at this dinner party where Chris Pine is at the head, and she pushes Harry Styles out of the way, and she sits at the head of the table. And she starts talking to everybody, and realizes that they all met exactly the same. They all met in a way where they dropped a ticket on a train, and that's how they met. So they have these sort of fake memories of their past, and like, how did they end up in this world? So it's revealed that this is all a freaking video game. The life that they have is a video game. It just kind of ruins the whole thing. For me, it just kind of that. And look, everyone I know that saw it says that the third act, they hated it. It's sort of a groan. It's like, this is your answer. I thought it could have been something interesting. Like, are they even on Earth? I started to think like as you're watching the movie, the fun part, at least for the first 2/3 or 3/4 of Don't Worry, Darling, is trying to figure out what's going on.
Mhm.
Mystery box. What is it? Are they on an asteroid in another galaxy where they're trying to go to repopulate Earth because Earth is destroyed, and they just sort of picked an era to like live like, sort of unbeknownst to them, they're going to repopulate. Like my mind was just going with theories of like what the hell was going on. Is it all a dream? Which is like lazy.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm always bothered by movies that basically say everything you saw up to this point meant nothing. Yeah.
Well, it didn't mean anything because in the virtual world, these things happened. And I think it's very telling that the 1-starred comment is Henry back to play. Just me, Alan is sexier than Harry Styles. Basically the twist is in the third act, she has this perfect life. It's revealed that she's actually in the perfect life feels like a prison because she's a housewife at home that cleans and shops and drinks alcohol all day and prepares meals while her husband goes off to work. It's revealed that she is basically in a video, like a virtual simulation of that perfect life where Harry Styles' character has kept her a captive, and he's effectively an incel who's video game addicted, who only goes off to work so he can like afford to pay the rent in the horrible rundown apartment that they're both living in. That's effectively the twist. The twist is incredibly dissatisfying. Then, of course, she's still in the virtual world, even though she learns the truth. She's stuck in the virtual world trying to escape, because if you die in the virtual world, you actually end up dying in real life. These are the rules. These are the rules. The filmmakers made it. Those are the rules.
Yeah, so, but you set that rule up at the end of the movie, and it just means nothing.
Let's go.
It sounds like that the majority of the film's ticket sales will come from Harry Styles fans, and
this movie will be number 1 at the box office. There's no doubt whatsoever. And I will say, on the positive side, the first 2/3 or 3/4 of this movie is amazing. I'm like, where is this going? And I would even say Olivia Wilde's a legit director. I mean, it looks impeccable. It's like a bygone era. Captured this bygone era, and everything from the music to the sound design, like, you had me. It's just that this reveal is so incredibly unsatisfying, and also I felt stupid for thinking up ideas that may have been better than what was actually revealed. Right? Mm-hmm. I felt that the reveal is just like, oh, he's just a video game nerd who trapped you in a virtual simulation. That's effectively what it is. So,
well, I mean, it sounds like, we talked about it with My Son Hunter. When you write a story out of anger, you lose this ability to tell a really good story.
Yeah, this is very much preaching to, and the worst thing is when they show Florence Pugh's real life, it seems fucking awful. It's awful. Mm-hmm. She works long hours at a hospital. They have a terrible, like, small, like, 1-bedroom apartment. Harry Styles, the husband, is just sort of playing video games all day. He's kind of a loser. And I know, like, every woman wants to see this movie. I think a lot of it because of the design. Harry Styles is in it, right? You've got, like, but it's also the production design. It's have to a shout out, like he watches the channel. But the cinematographer is fantastic in this. It's Matti Lebetic, and I was on a panel with him once at Slam Dance. He is a wildly talented cinematographer, and his work is always chef's kiss. Great cinematographer. She really, she makes Olivia Wilde look good. She sure picked a good cinematographer, but I got to give her credit. Except it's the weakness is in, like, what they decided the story was supposed to be and the reveal.